again to Devin with RM Wraps. We're here with another day of working on our little table project here. So yesterday we got the side frames, the legs and everything painted in nice satin black. Next thing we're going to get the top wrapped here. So we typically say you can work with any mild detergents, anything to break up surface, dust. I've got a little bit of spray paint on here I got to get off. You can use rubbing alcohol. It's easy to get at the store. But another thing that's really easy to get at the store is this invisible glass cleaner. And we'll probably link to this down in the description. It's basically Windex with one important caveat. It doesn't have ammonia in it. If you clean with something that has ammonia in it, what it does is it can leave, if you don't get 100% of that ammonia off, it actually eats the acrylic adhesive that's underneath our print. So you'll go to put it down and it might stay stuck for a little bit, but over time that adhesive will dissolve, you'll ruin your wrap. So we like to use this invisible glass cleaner. There's no ammonia in it, and it works basically the same. It gets dust and dirt and grime and any oils, fingerprints, all that stuff out of the way so that our wrap sticks and stays stuck. So I'm going to clean with this, and then you won't have to do this on any wraps you order from us as long as your surface is clean and new, but because this is an old, beat up, dirty table, the edges are really rough. We had to do a lot of filling with Bondo and 3M spot putty. We're going to use some 3M Primer 94 adhesion promoter, and that will just be along the edges down here to make sure that over time the wrap doesn't lift up. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy cleaned. Lint-free cloth. You don't want to leave anything on the table after the fact that's going to get between the adhesive and the surface. So. Oh, we might have to do a little bit more sanding. We had this table outside and some stuff got stuck to it. Actually, do we have a 2-inch scraper blade? So if, like us, if your table's got anything kind of stuck to it, any sticky stuff, anything that's not smooth to the touch, you want to get rid of it. So we've got some, I don't know, might be some tree sap or no clue what that is, but what I'm going to do is just take basically a straight edge. You can buy these at the hardware store. They come in 2-inch, 4-inch, like 6-inch. You could even use like a razor blade, straight edge, anything that's got a nice sharp edge to it. And I'm just going to This is also really useful if you were, like me, a little careless with the spray paint. If you could feel any spray paint finish on here, you can actually, if it won't clean off with anything, just scrape it right off. Let's see. I think we're pretty good everywhere else. I feel a little bit of that spray paint right there. And if you didn't get any Bondo filler, anything like that perfectly smooth, this can take that high spot off. You just have to be careful. You don't want it to dig in like it started to on me right there because this surface isn't perfectly smooth. So just want to kind of take any little high bits off that you might fill through the vinyl once you've got it installed. So I'm going to do another round of cleaning here. Next, before I go to apply my print, I'm going to use our primer. For us in the sign business, this stuff comes in little jars like this or big old quarts. You can, if you want to use this, just for that extra peace of mind that your wrap's going to stay stuck for a really long time, is you can actually get it in these little primer pens. They look like almost like little magic erasers or something. And I think you can get them for like $5 or $6 on Amazon. I'm not quite sure. I haven't looked at them in a while, but we'll leave a link to that down below. And it's basically this material and a little felt tip pen that you can use for kind of small individual products. So there's that primer. You'll see listings for this on Amazon, but you don't need nearly this much for individual projects. But what I'm going to do is we have these little felty, like Q-tips kind of thing that absorb the chemical really well and hold on to it. So I get a little bit on there, and then I'm just going to go around to the edge wherever I want my print to end. Basically, 1/4 to 1/2 inch is where I want that chemical down there. And I'm just going to go all the way around the table with it. And any other spots that you know you're going to have possible adhesion issues. So if I had divots up here, or if I had, say, if you were wrapping a desk that had cable cutouts, I would pull those little plastic caps out because they're going to be in your way anyway. You want to be able to wrap flush. But around the edge of a cable cutout, I would put primer there as an extra kind of, anywhere the edge of the vinyl is going to meet open air. If you want the peace of mind that it's really, really going to stick, you could put some around that thing. But I don't have any cable cutouts in this table, so we're just going to do this bottom edge. And this stuff dries really, really fast. So you can put this on, basically walk to your fridge, grab a soda, walk back, and it'll be mostly dry. So here is our print. We'll give kind of a nice little preview of it. So I picked out this nice high definition, I'm not sure what species of wood it is, but it's a nice high def image of a really pretty natural wood grain. And it was actually brighter than this. What we did is we took it into Photoshop and just dulled down that color, that saturation a little bit, because I wanted something a little bit more subtle, a little more contemporary. And as you'll notice, I'm going to cut the backer in a second, and I'll tell you what we do on all our orders. But another thing I want to point out is we put little corner markers. So I knew this table was 3 foot by 6 foot, so I put my rulers into Photoshop, and I actually put a little corner marker there, little corner marker there. And they won't be super dead on exact on my table because of the having to fill those corners in with Bondo and everything, but we've got the markers on the corners there. And what that'll do is when I go to apply the wrap, it'll make it super fast and easy to know that, because our prints are always, as you'll see, bigger than the surface, and you need that extra print to go over the edges. And if you can't see over the edge because the print's bigger than the surface, it can be hard to line things up. But with these little corner dots, you know you'll get within about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. That means you'll have enough to do that fold over, to do the trim at the end, to get it all mounted flush. So the next thing I'm going to do, and we do this on every order that we send out from our shop here, is I'm going to cut the backer. Normally, if you were to apply a sticker like this and the backer wasn't cut, you'd have to have a piece of masking tape, either all the way across or even just at the far ends, and you have to be able to anchor that to something to flip it over, apply one half, apply the other half. Again, that's kind of hard when what you're applying is bigger than the surface it's applying to. I can't tape this thing to air. So what we do is we use this nifty little tool. Again, if you're in the sign business but you don't know what these are, we call them double cutters. Brands like Yellow Tools makes them, but then there's knockoff ones like these are on Amazon. Or how much, Randy? Like 10, 15 bucks?
Something like that. It's called a bodyguard.
It's called bodyguard knife. We call it double cutter. But basically what it does is it has little pieces of Teflon on here. I'll flip the print over and it actually cuts that backing paper plastic liner so you can peel part of it away and leave the rest of the print protected. So you don't have to take the whole backer off, risk exposing your acrylic adhesive, having basically a giant sheet sticker that when it's stuck, it's stuck. You can fight prints, you can ruin prints that way. So this makes it a lot easier.
So what we call it is called a tacking on strip.
Yeah, so this, in a sense, makes the vinyl, your actual print, do the job of a masking tape. So what you do is you just roll the vinyl up away. So I've got the backer here, my finger's kind of in between the print and the backer here.
And we do this all for you.
Yeah, we do this for you. I'm just kind of showing it off if you were to make your own prints, if you're somebody in the industry who doesn't know what these knives are. But basically, every one of our prints will come with this strip cut out of it, just like that. And we put it back on. It likes to jump around a little bit once it's off, but basically, when you unroll your print, you'll get something that looks just like that. And that's intentional. Depending on what you're wrapping, if it's a refrigerator, if it's a door, what it is, if it's a mini fridge, sometimes we'll go one direction, sometimes we go the other. We base those basically on the easiest way to work half of the vinyl at a time. For example, actually, it's a little hard for this camera, but Randy's phone can show us in the edit. If you were to apply a print to this door, for example, if you were to have that backer strip cut this way and you started working down here, the curvature of this door will really fight you. The further you press and get that vinyl curled this way, the less it'll want to give you workable vinyl this way. So sometimes, depending on the subject, we do this for a lot of mini fridges, we'll actually take that center strip right out of the middle. That way, when it's stuck, all you're doing is worried about one curve at a time, and then you come over here and do the other curve. Anyway, so we've kind of developed our use cases of which way we cut the backer over time based on our customer feedback. But anyway, so with table clear, primer should be more than dry by now. I'm going to flip my print over and decide, I guess that way works. Again, because it's a flat table, I could spin it 180 if you wanted this piece of the grain over here. Doesn't really matter, but what I'm going to do is feel through the vinyl. See, maybe this camera can pick it up too. Feel through the vinyl and see how I can bend that vinyl down and kind of find the edge of my table here. So I'm going to put my first dot there, and I would just hold it. Then with my other hand, my dots were actually a little bit big, but again, that's totally fine. And square up that dot. So that should be where I want it to be. So I'm just going to hold it down, walk over to this other end of the table, double check my other dots, and I'm a little off. Oh, my print was a little big. Wonder how that happened. But a little big is totally fine because the extra will just get trimmed off. So I'm just going to shift it that way to make sure I have the same amount of bleed on both sides. Walk back over here, double check her one more time. Yeah, plenty. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach up underneath and grab, I can show this. You don't have to flip it over like this, but I'm just doing it so I can show you. Is grab that little strip and peel it away. Then when I flip my print back over, and the whole time I did that, when I flipped and came back over, I was holding it down so it didn't move. I then push to that stripe and just go right along where I took that strip out. That is your tacking strip. So now the print will not be going anywhere. And again, at this point, if something moved, you can get this right back up. It'll lift right back up if you want it to. The more you get stuck down, you will hit a point where you kind of can't go in reverse. So now that I've got it tacked down, I'm just going to recheck. Doesn't hurt to recheck. Check all my corners. Yep, plenty close. So now I would pick, if you've never applied a piece of vinyl like this before, I would have my squeegee in my dominant hand. You're going to do the side that feels easier for you first, that way you get practice. Or if you're in a space like this, you can always just walk around and then keep in your dominant hand and go this way. I'm left-handed, so I'll do the right side first, the right side for me. What I'm going to do is come all the way back here, so it's laying like this. Right here is where it's stuck to the table. And then I'm going to peel this backer material away to about right there. And again, this does two things for me. One, it exposes as little vinyl to the air, particulates in the air, dust, hair off me, whatever, as possible. And it also makes this a little bit more rigid for me to hold on to. And this is about as big as I would do one hand or with one person. If you had a 4x8 table, I definitely suggest having either wet applying, which is a different subject. I think we've covered it in other videos before, but either wet applying it if you're by yourself or having a second set of hands where each one of you can hold a side of the vinyl. But anyway, so since I'm by myself, I'm going to grab my print and this folded up piece of backer together, lift up and away from the table. Basically, I don't want it touching until I push it down with my squeegee. So I'm just going to start going back and forward, making sure I overlap, kind of like I'm mowing my yard. You want to overlap your squeegee stripes so that you don't end up with a bubble somewhere in the middle. So I'm honestly only taking about an inch or two out of it at a time and just going back and forward. Until I get to a spot about right there, and then I'll flip it this way. And you can do one of two things. If you're struggling to hold on to it, this backer material does help keep the vinyl more rigid. If I were to pull all of this off right now, it can get really flimsy away from your hand and fold in on itself, and it can kind of fight you. So the easiest thing to do, and I'll actually show you how to do it. Actually, do we have a pair of scissors? Yep, right here.
You
What's that?
how to do it?
Well, here, I'm going to show the layman way to do it.
Okay.
Basically, I would pull back a little bit more, maybe half of what was left, and then take a pair of scissors. And cut that extra away. And this is just, get it out of your way, you're good. So what this does is, like I said, it helps keep this more rigid so it doesn't fold in on itself and stick. It's not completely ruined if it folds in on itself and sticks. It just makes things more difficult. So you just want to keep things as easy, as simple as possible. And actually what you can do is just take the tension out of it like this, and as long as you know where you started at and keep that overlap going, you can work this. And if you start to get a little bit of a wrinkle, like I said, you can just lift back up on it a little bit. Now that I've got closer to the end, it's staying more rigid for me. I can keep holding it up with my hand. And then finally, work this last bit off. I'm going to try to hold it up, and actually, here's a little trick. You'll see car wrappers do this sometimes where they take a pole and actually stick it to the vinyl, and then they hold on to that pole because that pole's rigid. You can do the same thing with your arm. Just use your arm and your hand. Stuck. That helps you hold up the whole width of the vinyl in one shot. And the reason I really worried about that here on the end is just in case that Bondo is not super adhered to the subsurface. I don't want to pull that Bondo up and have the Bondo stuck to my vinyl early because it can just kind of create a lot of issues. And again, when you're wrapping a brand new surface, you're wrapping a brand new table, you're not going to worry about all this. But just on this particular project, that's one of the issues. And again, because my table has a little bit of a lip, I got a couple bubbles, but all you got to do is massage them out. There's another good one here. Can you see that in the reflection?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's that?
Right there?
Oh, there's right there. I see
Okay.
there
So most of the time, you can just massage that bubble right out. We use a air egress vinyl, a 3M IJ35C vinyl. And the reason, I don't know if the vinyl shows it, but it's got a little hex pattern in it. Basically, it's a technology that 3M has patented, and it allows you to, without having to pull that vinyl back up or poke it, get those air bubbles out. So just get it all worked in there. So there is one half done.
Okay, Devin, let me try my little technique.
For what? Doing the backer paper?
No, the side, yeah.
Oh, okay. You want to?
Okay, give me the mic. We're going to try. I just want to see if this is easier too. We always like to experiment. We always to see which was better. As a professional installer that I install this stuff all the time, every artist or every installer does this is a little bit different. And so what I would probably do for this one right here, I would go about 4 or 5 inches. Bring it over just like this. So the vinyl, actually the backing lifts up and over, so you can see the little archway right there. And then I would go just do it this way. And then pull the backing down here. Once you start going a little bit, there you go. And then what I'm doing is doing a 30-degree angle area. And another thing we can do is, every order you get a squeegee just like this.
Back up.
Oh, sorry, left.
There you go.
So the arrows, that's the reason why we make these in-house and we actually design everything. If you follow these arrows, that's the proper way, angle to do. this installing. So I'm slowly pulling at every probably 3 inches. And doing it this way. And I'm actually watching these arrows. Even as a professional, I kind of watch the arrows and let it go like this. And there we go. And you get a little air bubble in it, not a big deal. You can kind of massage it out. Now, the scratches we're seeing right here, you can actually add a heat gun to this.
It's actually
and
not shown on the camera, but...
Oh, it doesn't show you. Okay. There's like a little bit of scratchy areas right there. And
they look like little shiny...
shiny areas. You're basically buffing. That's what you're doing with the squeegee. And so on that, you just take a little heat gun to it and you call it good. Okay, Devin, you're going to take over next?
Oh, okay. You want to do the edges?
Yep. I just wanted to see my way versus Devin's way. There you go, Devin.
I've always, because I used to work with bigger signs, I always kept it up away from the substrate, and that's just the way I learned to do it, and I get more comfortable with it. Randy's way was probably easier for someone who's not used to working with vinyl. I just find when I do it that way that I get more air bubbles. That's just, I don't know, I always do. But
like every artist.
Yeah, everybody finds their way that works best for them. But we don't cheap out. We don't go with the cheapest vinyl we can find, and that's because we know not everybody works with this stuff every day. So we want to use quality materials that, one, are going to last a long time, but two, with the air egress technology, make it as easy as possible to fix little mistakes. Some vinyls, cheap vinyls that we've unfortunately had to work with because they were sent to us by another print shop or something else, are either super high tack and you get one shot at it and you're done, or they aren't air egress and when there's a bubble, it's there forever. You kind of learn, not the hard way, but you learn to appreciate the quality of certain vinyls that make installing easier. Anyway, so I'm going to grab a knife here, and I'll actually show you. I guess I could do it with one of the knives that come in our kit.
Oh, yeah, if you want to do that, yeah.
So along with the squeegee that Randy showed you, we send one of these. We send one of these along with every order. And it's basically a box cutter, but it totally works, and it's got little snappable blades. And you actually can use the end cap of the knife actually comes out. So if you're cutting and you nick something, you snap the tip of the blade or whatever, it's not actually gone. What you can do is insert it. Plastic's a little cheaply molded, but basically you use that to bend and snap the blade. So there's, I don't know, about a dozen little blade bits in there. So you always want to work with a sharp blade, as they say, even with like kitchen knives and everything else. As soon as it starts fighting you, when the blade goes dull, that's when your cut's not as clean, it doesn't look as good, and you risk cutting yourself. So we send these, they're not extravagant by any means. We have some fancier knives because we work with these all day, but they certainly get the job done. So anyway, I'm going to start here at a corner. And what I'm going to do actually is probably work this down with my thumb first along the edge. And I'm kind of pulling on this to keep it, to take any slack out of it. What I do when I get to this corner is I will do a little cut and then go to the next edge and do a cut at the far corner. But by getting away from the squeegee, I mean, you can use the squeegee once you kind of have it established, but the squeegee's meant for more kind of broad surface areas, and when you're trying to get around an edge and make sure it's tight and you don't want an extra crease or anything, best thing to use is your hands. So I'm going to work my way all the way across this, pull it up if I have any issues. Then I can come back just to get it all the way down to that edge with the squeegee. So then what I like to do is I use the inside of my thumbnail along that edge, and what it does is it just makes it easier to see where you're going to be cutting. So I'll just kind of run my thumbnail all the way along that, because that's where I'm going to cut, and it helps me see and kind of plan what my cut's going to be like before I actually do it. So then I'll come back here, find a spot to start, and what I'm doing is I'm going to be pushing up against, kind of running my blade slightly angled inwards to stay along that. Yeah, the Bondo's not super straight, so it's going to fight me a little bit. Nope. That edge isn't perfect. And this is going on our craft room anyway, so I don't have to be 100% dead on.
In the video, the wood does look real.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh. My knife blade jumped out on me. So what actually, it's actually a good thing to show. If your knife blade jumps out on you and you come up into the print, stop. You can massage it back down almost to the point where it disappears, and then come from the other side. Really catching on that Bondo. There it goes. And then cut into it. So now I have a little like triangular notch, if you will, of vinyl, but it won't come up. You hardly see it unless you know what you're looking for. So that's just one little way to kind of save your print if your knife blade jumps on you like it did on me. And then come over here and just do a quick little trim off. Pull that away. And then one final thing to do is kind of just rub that vinyl right along that edge just to kind of help seat that last little bit. Any kind of pulling you might have done up away from the surface while you were cutting it or applying it. And it just, the adhesive in this vinyl is semi-pressure activated. So if you don't get it 100% stuck down before, it's a good idea to just give it one last kind of go over. And I've got, a couple air bubbles that are gonna, that one doesn't want to go out. So what you can do is just take your knife blade, give it a little poke, and then work from one end of the bubble out towards where you poked and get it to stick down. Okay, so next thing I got to do here is you basically end up with this extra vinyl, because if I was to push down here, you end up with, like you're wrapping a present, like a funny little wing. So what I do is I come out here, and again, kind of run my fingernail along it to find where my edge is. And then I start at the top, poke a little hole, and then cut down just like that. Leave it flush. So now, when I come to do the other side, it now folds flush. And then I'll do the same thing right there. I'll cut there, and I cut along the bottom when I've got it fully pressed down. Whew. Be careful going too fast because you'll burn your finger. Okay. And again, I'm maybe making it look a little easier just because we've wrapped so many things like this before. If you're having issues with it, take your time. It'll pull back up. Don't feel, if you start to feel uneasy about it and go, well, maybe if I get a little bit farther into the project, it'll go okay. I wouldn't recommend it. I would back it up. I would try again. If you're having real struggles with it, you can contact us. Randy can kind of give you video tips, video pointers on your subject, even over FaceTime. We're totally here to help. We love not only making these videos, but answering questions about the products, about the best way to tackle tricky little areas to get vinyl down into. We want you to get the wrap on and make it look good. And what do I do? Oh, there's my knife. You want to get me trimming this other corner here. So now that I've got that fully worked down, I'm going to do the same thing I did just on the other direction. So I'll kind of start at the top. And what I'm doing is finding where that corner ends. and that's where creasing it with your thumbnail or with some sharp edge can kind of help you find it. And I'm just gonna stab, and then again, keeping my blade flush with this kind of orientation. Come down like that, and then just any little bit extra, I just kind of stick down and it'll stick to itself, and that corner is trimmed. And there's no, other than like where I just showed you right there, starting at the top and going down is a good idea. But if you find it's weird, I'm left-handed, so I might look kind of backwards the way you want to do it. Start at the left, start at the right, start at whichever end, it doesn't matter. Just on these corners, it does help to start, I guess, where the bulk of the vinyl is and work towards the away. What I'm going to do is, on this particular thing, you can see a separation between the tabletop and that leg, and it's actually a great little groove to get your knife into. So I just got the knife down in there, and then I'm just going to follow. I can do a little cut right here to give myself something to hold on to. Cutting vinyl like this works a lot better. It's kind of like cutting with scissors or cutting wrapping paper. You'll notice your scissors or knife blade or anything goes through wrapping paper when you're wrapping presents a lot easier if you can kind of keep tension on one side. Same thing with this vinyl. If I just left this flapping and went to cut, what it can do is it can create funny little waves, and then my knife blade will feel that, and you'll actually not see as straight as cut. So what I do is I just hold on to this, give it a little tug in that direction to keep it taut, and it just makes that cut happen a lot cleaner. And every once in a while I'll stop and I'll grab it here, work my way down. Oh, and then my knife blade will jump. So there's a drawer right here, so I just start over. I come in, give it a little stab, and that tiny little sliver will just go right back in. And I'll stop, shift myself over. Oh, come on. This table had really rough edges. I don't know how old this table was, but it makes getting the knife to stay clean a little more challenging. Okay, and again, I'm just going back right along that edge I just cut and just pressing it in, making sure that vinyl stays fully adhered. And along with our primer, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, same thing as before, working my way around. Gonna find my edge with my nail there and then just give it a little poke up to the corner, trim it down flush. Okay, I'm just going to keep getting it trimmed here. That corner's a little rounded.
All right, here's a little trick we learn sometimes do. You take
Here.
a Band-Aid with the fabric kind of Band-Aid.
Here you go.
Okay, so what we normally do, here, Devin, put this on your thumb.
Put it on my thumb.
It's like this.
Oh, for rubbing the edge down?
Yeah, a little trick. So fabric Band-Aid, just cut the little square off, not the thing that covers your owies. And just use this. And so when you're doing the sides right here, it slides perfectly. And it acts like kind of like a squeegee, but that's a little trick and tip and tricks on this guy right here. So if you're doing this right, this little guy right here, there you go. I'm just kind of showing Devin this because I totally forgot about this little trick.
Yeah, I've never thought about using a Band-Aid. That's a good idea.
There you go.
Okay, get my microphone back on my hat. There we go.
I was noticing all your squeakies.
All my squeakies? Yeah.
When you're doing your with your thumb.
And like I said, yeah, you get moving a little too fast, you can give yourself burns.
That's another thing I said. Oh, you burned yourself. I said, okay, that's a good idea to put the Band-Aid on there.
This back edge is a little funny just because this was the roughest edge of all of them on this table. You can actually see maybe a couple of the little divots. It's not a flat, straight surface, so I'm having to make sure that it sinks in and I don't get any extra wrinkles. Okay, last little cuts here. Oh, I'll have to do a little bit of touch up. Our spray paint wasn't super cured. We only did it yesterday afternoon, and the vinyl's taken a couple little spots up. Oh. And Randy is taking a couple of our squeegee marks out of the vinyl with a heat gun. You could probably get away with doing that with a hair dryer, but it'd just take a little bit longer.
So I'll do a quick little video showing the angle or the heat.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta come back here to, had a little spot where the Bondo wasn't super flat. Oh, come on. There she goes. Okay. Okay.
Boy, it's hard to find it in the camera, but in eye, you can definitely see it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's tough to show without, if the camera can't show it.
This right here.
Heat's also a really good way to find any little spots that you didn't press the vinyl down. As you add heat to it, the air underneath the vinyl expands, and you'll actually see little ripples, little spaces, and little bubbles kind of appear. And then the upside of that is that when the air's hot and the vinyl's warm, it actually is easier to get the bubbles out too. Yeah, darn, I wish we could get the camera to show that, but basically,
it's so hard that the camera sees it very little of it.
Yeah, the camera doesn't really show it, unfortunately, but basically anywhere you've got squeegee marks, any kind of scrapes where you're pressing just a little bit too hard, You can take a heat gun and it mostly makes it disappear. You can kind of just chase them out.
Dude, you're like right here.
You know, and I just had a thought, and I don't know if it would actually work or not, but it's something you could certainly try if you've got a lot of marks on your table, on your wrap. Take the table outside, put it in the sun. On a hot day, especially if it's a darker print, I would not be surprised if it got hot enough to actually let the top lamination relax and let a lot of the marks disappear for you. All else fails, heat guns like these are at Home Depot or Lowe's for $20. Yeah, something like that. You can get one of the fancy ones with the temperature settings and everything else, but this is just a bog standard. If it's on, it's on. It's making heat. Heat gun. You can probably find these on Amazon, and Harbor Freight's probably got them. Yeah, anywhere you get lines, you can just relax that vinyl, relax that surface tension, and they just disappear. Okay, I think, ooh, this heat gun's about on its way out. Okay. Just want to make sure it doesn't fall over and touch something. So there you have it. That is how you apply a table wrap. And how you kind of upcycle an old table in the process. We'll edit that first part of cleaning up and bondoing and painting everything onto the front end of this. But if you want something like this, if you want this exact print, if you want it, you want the same exact print, but you want it neon green, if you want it, if you want star fields, ocean waves, drone shots would be really cool. Like top-down aerial photography stuff as a table wrap would be really cool.
Maybe looking down in the city or something.
Looking down at a city, looking down at a forest. I mean, you could, sky's the limit again with these fun things. Printing out on the HP 700W makes really, really pretty prints. So if you want something like this, contact us, info@rmwraps.com. You can call us, 208-696-1180. You can find our website, or it's got contact forms on there. If you want to design your own wrap, you want to design something yourself and send us the print, we're happy to do it. This has been a really cool project. I'm excited. I think this is going to be a hit at home. Anything else that I'm missing out on?
rmwraps.com.
Yep, rmwraps.com. We're also updating our sister site for the architectural films, stuff you'd use in banks, elevators, refurbishing furniture, for heavy duty stuff, commercial applications. That's rmwrapstore.com. We're adding new blog posts to that, brand new product photos, brand new product videos. We're hitting both our websites really hard. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Give us contact. If you got any questions, contact us. If you're interested in something like this or have another idea of something you'd like to see, we love doing custom design stuff. We could burn your company logo right into it with Photoshop. We can do all kinds of fun stuff. So I think that'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching. See you on the next project.